That was wonderful. Thank you, John. So welcome again. Today is a very special day, as we all know. As you look around, you can see it is a very special day. It is Super Bowl Sunday. As I was getting ready for this talk, I am not a football fan, so forgive me anything I say. But okay, you'll see I'm not even wearing red. I didn't even get the memo. My wife says to me as I'm getting ready, you should really work in a football analogy. And I go, that is great. What a great idea. Let's do that. Let's think of a good football analogy. So she says, okay, what are you speaking about? I said, well, I'm speaking about love in action. And I'm going to be talking about St. Augustine of Hippo, who was a Christian theologian living about 1,500 years ago. I said, come up, let me know what football analogy you come up with. If she walks in that door, there will be a football analogy. Until that happens. When I think of football, I do not think of love in action. I think of something in action. But love in action is not it. So, today we are beginning our series on that redundancy, love in action, because one thing we believe here at One World is that love is action. We do not believe love is just that emotion we feel toward people. We believe that love comes into being when we stand up and we put our feet to it, and our hands to it, and our voices to it. So I took my title today from St. Augustine of Hippo, who was one of the, if not the most influential thinkers in the Western Christian church. And if you look at your bulletin, I think your bulletin is so cool. Normally your bulletin does not have like hidden codes in it, but this one does. Because his full title was Love and Do What You Will. So we have love and do what you will. I didn't even come up with this. But I think it is, I think probably Chris Kell came up with it, but I just love it. So anyway, this is what his full text was. It was from his Sermon on Love, and in it he wrote the following. Once and for all, I give you this one short command. Love and do what you will. If you hold your peace out of love. If you cry out in love. If you correct somebody, correct them in love. If you spare them out of love. Let the root of love be in you. Nothing can spring from it but good. Love and do what you will. Nothing can spring from it but good. I gotta tell you, sometimes it is challenging to get up and give a different message every week, because the same message we give is that message every week. Love and do what you will, and nothing will come of it but good. I'm done. We can have Christmas now. I mean, that's the message. No matter what facet, what angle you look at it from, how you take that prism and move it around. We come up with all sorts of fancy ways to look at it. We can make spirituality so complicated. We can just make it so complex, we can put it directly out of our reach, especially here in the West, don't we? We have a system of checklists, of how-tos, of DVDs you got to buy, books you got to read. We come at it in the belief that what we know right now, who we are right now, has to be improved, don't we? We don't know enough, we haven't done enough. When we go through all the steps, we've read all the books, we've done all the workshops, then we are ready to step into spiritual mastery. Many of us have stepped away from traditional religious bodies just because of this, just because of what we experience as dry formalism. I can't tell you how many people I have met that call themselves atheists, agnostics, whatever, and they describe a God that, as I say, I don't believe in either. A God that is small, a spirit that is confined, that is judgmental, that is rigid. And who can be surprised when people step away from such a theology? I've stepped away from it. I don't believe in it either. Because I believe in a spirit that is larger, that is bigger, that is right here, that is us, that is all of us, that is pulsing and loving and energetic and alive and meaningful. We need to remember, though, that same kind of dryness that many of us have experienced in formal religious traditions can also arise in traditions like this. It can also arise in any philosophy, New Thought included, if we remove from it the absolute mandate that we need to continue to seek the lived experience of God. That is why we're here, to continue to seek the lived and immediate experience of the divine in our lives, in and as us. We don't have to earn our way to peace of mind. We don't have to read it, learn it, listen to it, buy it, whatever. We are divine right now, right here, just as we are. Spirit is not waiting for us to become the 2.0 version of ourselves. We're not waiting for that update. We are here right now. Spirit is asking us to recognize that we are whole, perfect, just as we are supposed to be, right here and right now. Sometimes I think religious organizations compound the problem. They tell us there are so many questions that we cannot possibly begin to address. I don't know about you, but my life is really busy. I don't have time to read all those books that are going to turn me into a spiritual master, and it's my job. But the biggest job I can do is just convey that it is in how we approach life, how we see life, how we live life, that is going to lead us into that awakening. As I was preparing for my ordination back, I guess in June of 2015, we were told that we were supposed to write our own ministerial vows. Okay, so this was a very kind of zippy place. We got to come up with our own vows, and we were in a program that told us that we would become better spiritual leaders when we developed our own spirituality. That was the whole thing. It was an interfaith seminary, and using these different faith traditions, we deepened our own understanding of our own walk with Spirit. And the assumption was, and I believe it is true, that when we do that, we become better teachers and better leaders and better examples and speakers to assist others walk their own spiritual path. So they said, okay, you're going to write your own ministerial vows. And we all gave this a great deal of thought, because it was a very deep thing, but also because we had to stand up in front of a whole lot of other people, and we didn't want to look like morons. So everybody gave this a great deal of thought. When I stood up to give my vows, my first line, and I have never changed it, my first line was, I will love first. I will love first. Before I do anything else, I will do my human, flawed, messy best to come from a place of love. Now, do we always get it right? No, of course we don't always get it right. But that doesn't mean that I don't keep it as my true north, because I know that if I come at life from a consciousness of love, from a place of love, I cannot go wrong. Remember how I talked a while back about walking toward the good, stepping toward our good? It's the same thing. It's the same thing as stepping into our abundance, aligning with Spirit. When we come from a consciousness that we are connected, we are one, we are whole, we are expressions of Spirit here on earth, we cannot go wrong every step we take. Our world opens up when we shift our view, when we just shift our paradigm and look at it differently, when we look at it through eyes that see it as the wondrous, loving, vibrant creation that it is. The Christian scripture says that I will teach you to see all things new. It doesn't say that I will teach you to see all new things. I will teach you to see all things new, which means we look at it with different eyes. We look at it with eyes that look out and say, that is God's creation. I am God's creation, and we are connected. It is a wondrous thing. And even if we look out at a world that is hurting and that is in pain, we see the truth that it is the potential to be a wondrous thing, and it will be there if we help walk it from here to there. As our view of the world changes, as we come at it from a place of love, the way we engage with the world cannot help but change. Do you remember a while back we were talking about Dr. Martin Luther King and his theory of nonviolence that he took and he expanded when he studied more of Mahatma Gandhi? That is a perfect example of coming at the world from a place of love, because he knew, and he taught others to know, that when they engaged in the world out of nonviolent compassion and love and forgiveness, that no matter what happened, it could not help but make a difference. And it did. Starting small, we have seen the results of what they accomplished, using nothing more than the power, the pure, vibrant power of love and forgiveness and kindness in the face of whatever came. And that is the same power that we can use to change ourselves and our lives and our global community right now. The only way that we can show up as expressions of the divine is to open up and let God express as us. As Meister Eckhart said, let God be God in you. And that's the same thing John was singing about. Just being the presence of God, welcoming the presence of God as us, as all of us, and as the connections between us. Remember what Martin Buber said? That God is in the connection between, God is in the dialogue between you and me. When you and I are having a discussion, God happens right there. And we just need to be aware of it and know it and spread it. This is not a Western idea. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu articulated the same truth, that living our lives from a place of peace and harmony changes the way we show up in the world. I'm going to quote you a text from that work, which I just love. It just reached out to me, and I just love it, so I'm going to read it to you. When the greatness of Tao is present, when the greatness of Tao is present, Tao is the way. We know that, the way to live, a way of harmony and peace and balance. When the greatness of Tao is present, action arises from one's own heart. When the greatness of Tao is absent, action comes from the rules of kindness and justice. If you need rules to be kind and just, if you act virtuous, this is a sure sign that virtue is absent. Thus we see the great hypocrisy. Only when the family loses its harmony do we hear of dutiful sons. Only when the state is in chaos do we hear of loyal ministers. So this is a lot to unpack. I had to kind of sit there with this for a minute. But what he's saying to me is the same thing that Augustine is saying. When we come from a place where love drives us, where virtue drives us, when the only impetus to which we are responding is the power and the expression of God in us, we will act in harmony. We will act with virtue, with loving kindness to all beings, because we will be unable to do anything else. We will see no other choices. So I thought this was fascinating. It made me think about rules. Only when the state is in chaos, when the family loses its harmony, do we hear about dutiful sons and loyal ministers. When you act virtuous, when you need rules to act justly and kindly, that is when virtue is absent. Because it should come from here. It should come from our own reaction to the divinity in us. When we awaken within ourselves the awareness of love, or that which Lao Tzu calls virtue, we are in balance with the greater universe. We will have no choice but to act in harmony with our own inner natures as the expression of love, harmony, and the divine in the world. Our inner landscape, our inner consciousness of love and peace and kindness has no choice but to manifest as that in our outer expression. By the same token, when this inner knowing is silent, when your inner governor of love and peace and kindness are absent, what is there to guide our behavior other than rules and laws and strictures? Now, having said that, this is the lawyer hat of me talking. I don't know if it's a good idea to take our criminal code and just throw it away. And I don't know if it's a good idea right now to throw out all the rule books. But I do love what this passage tells us. I love the guidance it gives us, the vision it supplies for us. It articulates our challenge and our vision, looking to the day when we can live in a community in which our own inner guidance creates what Dr. King called the beloved community. Just imagine that. Just take a minute and imagine that. If we all had those inner metrics that we allowed to express that would bring us into harmony, living in that beloved community. I think that's the world he spoke of, in which our own drive to act from a place of connection and love translates into the reality, the larger reality that is connection and that is love. So in thinking about this passage, it struck me how many rules abound when we live in a world that is governed by fear. Do you notice that? Do you sometimes feel that? When we live in a world where sometimes one of the major energies is separation, or is fear, or is lack, how many rules end up surrounding us, constricting us, and being imposed on us? When we imagine a threat at every corner, death and destruction possible at every moment, what do? Do we expand? Do our hearts warm and grow? No, I don't know about you, but I hunker down. I lock my door, I worry, I don't go up and greet that stranger or smile at that person on the street. I feel that my world is smaller. We try to regulate our way into imagined safety, and we don't even notice how much we shrink ourselves and we shrink our world when we do that. So what is our invitation, especially in communities like this, where we imagine and we know that our actions, even as individuals, create a ripple effect of compassion and kindness and love, where we know that we can go out and make a difference? What is it that we do? Is it too idealistic to think that we can go out and make global changes, that we can create areas of compassion and peace and kindness? I don't think it is. Because we're all individuals. It all starts somewhere. It makes no sense for us just to say, well, I can't make a huge difference in the world, so I'm not even going to try. We make a difference where we are. What is it John Wesley said? Make a difference with who you are, what you have, where you are. This is what we do. We start where we are, with the behaviors that we know is correct, with the view of life that we know we want to see magnified in our world. We are invited to help create a world where all can live and connect with each other, coming from that place of love. We know that a world driven by fear is not the truth of who we are. It may be what we see, it may be what we experience, but it is most definitely not the truth of who we are. And so we continue to shine our lights of that truth, maybe just one at a time. But even one light in the darkness defeats the darkness. Maybe just one at a time. But the other thing I do know is that actions have consequences. And our individual shining our lights make a difference. We know what that world would look like. We've seen it in our own actions. Sister Joan Chittister writes, "And God, Scripture assures us, is not in the whirlwind. God is not in a plethora of anything, words, places, rituals, ecclesiastical games, or people. God is simply right where we are." God is simply right where we are, which of course is why God is so hard to find. We are always looking elsewhere. There, says the church. There, says society. But God is here, right here, all the time. Here and here and here, all the time. Little acts we do make such a huge difference. Little acts of connection. I read a story a while back about a woman who had, and there are thousands of such stories. Let me just tell you one that touched me. About a woman who had lost her husband of 45 years several months earlier. It's Christmas Eve, and she was sitting alone in church, listening to a children's presentation. A little girl of about 12 was there all by herself, so couldn't find a place to sit, so the lady says, "Come sit next to me," and the little girl sits right next to her. The children up front began to sing Silent Night. They're in this beautiful church. Children are singing, robes, vestments, the whole thing. As they sang, the woman was overcome with pain and loneliness, thinking of all the Christmas Eves that she and her husband had shared. She put a tissue up to her face as she began to cry. So as she sat there, with her hands in her lap, she felt this little hand move across her lap and take her hand. It was the little girl who was responding to her tears, and she literally reached out to this elder lady with her hand and just held her hand. The lady wrote that at that moment, she felt such a sense of connection and joy that it completely transformed that event for her. It just filled her heart with the hope that there was human connection and love still. Now think about this. What had made that lady feel God? She was in a church. She was all dressed up. It was Christmas Eve. There were people singing. There were priests. There was whatever. Candles. Had that made her feel God? No. What did was that little girl making that connection. So let's look for God where God can be found. Let's make God happen when we are able to make that connection. Because sometimes where we think God is going to be is not the place where God actually happens. We make God happen through loving and connecting and just risking. There's another good word. Just risking to make those connections with people, even people we don't know. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't even have to be inconvenient. It just has to be done. And each one of us can do it. I'd like to close with a quote from theologian and author Carlo Coretto. He wrote, "To those who ask me if I am wasting my time, I can only say, live love. Let love invade you. It will never fail to teach you what you must do." Let's take these thoughts into meditation.